Yeah, welcome back to the States.
Hey, thank you.
And then we will spot ourselves. There we are. So, hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our final official in-person meeting and Zoom meeting of the Rochester Eclipse Task Force. I have a feeling that so many people made so many friends and connections and made things happen that it will in no way be the last time any of you all are meeting with each other, because now you know how to get things done with the right people. But yeah, there's a little bit of, it's the last one.
Should we reintroduce ourselves for posterity?
For posterity. I'm Deborah Ross, for the last meeting, chair of Rochester's Eclipse Task Force for the 2024 eclipse.
And I'm Dan Schneiderman,
Everything.
Eclipse
He's
Partnership
everything.
Coordinator here at the RMSC for honestly a couple more months. I still have work to do on things. And also one of the co-chairs of the task force. And I will share screen. Also want to make sure I share sound and optimize video because of things we have.
And here. Okay.
So welcome to the official last stakeholder meeting. Kind of wild that we're now on the other side. Just as this one last reminder, here's everyone who's been working on this for the last 5 years.
Really, really, really hard. And we just, unfortunately, Diana and Rachel are at a meeting today, a tourism meeting, so they can't be here in person. But they were so, every single person was so integral to this process. But everybody else is here. So we get to sort of celebrate together, celebrate all the work. Yeah.
So yeah, something happened a few days ago. I had to really think about how to do this slide after we've been counting down for so long. And so, we can gladly say the eclipse was 10 days ago. How many people enjoyed the eclipse?
Yeah.
Amazing. That is what we love to hear.
Right.
And with that, we're actually going to share this video that Deb threw together in the last 24 hours.
Well, sort of. I've been planning this video since all of the work started because, one of the things that a lot of you do that I don't do is art, is make things that are immortal. And I envy all of the people who make things that are immortal. But what I wanted to remind everybody who created these experiences that seem to last for just a day or for a weekend, that what in fact you've done is going to live forever. And so this is just a little compilation of the overall picture of what happened. And so I just wanted to share that, remind you guys. And I'll tell you about the music after.
All holes to project an image of the
Here with Dan Schneiderman.
357 days.
Exactly.
More this than Rochester, you're saying?
This is here as opposed to what's happening.
Miles per hour in cross scope.
Well, check out some
and chair from the
Story together.
more than 5 months away.
Different. Today, this is just right now. Difference between 99% of Vermont and New Hampshire and
portion, almost half of the Erie Canal, is within the path of Total.
already over the moon. RMSC is joining the local leaders to
and look up into the sky. Eclipse here from Rarbach.
Which is amazing that you started a task force.
Rochester Eclipse Task Force
All right, what's it for the upcoming total solar eclipse?
Monday afternoon.
You need some kind of approved.
Joining us to discuss how this. You here, by the way, you have to go to.
John Olaf created for the stage of a middle school.
In Europe, I want to say.
Monday, so.
Take Tuesday too.
Outside Blue Cross Arena on Sunday, Amy Vilsons and her family.
Museums and
A crowd at the Blue Cross Arena.
Opening day.
For people that do not know, imagine what I would.
Framed by all the big.
It's sort of like a once in a lifetime for sure. I mean,
Experience. The crowd started cheering.
Houston and DC.
It will continue to slowly encroach, and we're going to start a little.
Okay.
Very nice.
That emotional?
Deb, did you want to mention the music
Sure.
up on camera?
So the music is by Gary Scheinman, and I don't yet have permission to release this publicly, although I'm trying to. This is one of my favorite pieces of music. It's it's in Bengali, actually, so that's why you didn't understand what the words were. But the words are, it's a poem, and the poem goes like this. The same stream of life that runs through my veins night and day, runs through the world and dances in, sorry.
Oh, okay.
You can finish it. Yeah, start again.
The same stream of life that runs through my veins night and day, runs through the world and dances in rhythmic measures. It is the same life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth and the numberless blades of grass and breaks into tumultuous waves of leaves and flowers. It is the same life that is rocked in the ocean cradle of birth and of death, in ebb and in flow. I feel my limbs are made glorious by the touch of this world of life, and my pride is from the life throb of the ages dancing in my blood this moment.
Nice.
So-
Really nice.
I can
Okay.
continue on, Corinne.
Thank you.
So one thing I did want to bring up is, even though we all were clouded out, I'm sure some people still got glimpses of the partial phases. We still experienced totality. That is something everyone in the greater Rochester region can say. All 1.1 million plus however many visitors we had here. Every single one of us got to live through totality. That has always been the goal of the last 5-7 years that we've been working on this. And we can say that we did it. If anyone says that we missed out on the eclipse, no, we still experienced totality. And you know what? I had to include this. I did the math of this. If you check out the Rochester Eclipse 2024 website, it has the countdown to the next total solar eclipse in Rochester in 44,019 days. You know I'm going to release something on 44,000 days. I don't know what yet, but I have the time to figure that out. And, you know, on that note, we actually do have a bunch of solar eclipses coming up that we will still experience here in Rochester. Yes, they are not total, but we still get some amazing partials over the next 20 years. We even have a partial solar eclipse that we will see next year. If you have eclipse glasses, and I hope some of you have kept them, you can still view these. We have had some amazing partials over the years. You know, 1994's annular, there was an eclipse in 2000, in 2012, in 2017, it was partial for us, 2021. We still celebrated every single one of those eclipses, and we will continue to celebrate these eclipses. And it's not just the sun. We have lunar eclipses too. I do want to point out this is far from the full list of eclipses, of lunar eclipses coming up that we will see in the next decade. There is much more. Lunar eclipses are fairly easy to see. I mean, we had 2 back in 2022. There are still plenty of times to celebrate eclipses overall. Frankly, I can't wait to the 2029 lunar eclipse, because it's going to happen in the last 11 days of the decade. And it's going to be at max at 5:15 in the evening. No one should miss out on that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun. When I was going through all the upcoming eclipses, I was like, oh, that's going to be a party. I also want to point out that, you know, we've been having these stakeholder meetings for 4.5 years. The first official stakeholder meeting was October 10th, 2019. We have maybe about a minute footage of that meeting, which at some point I will be sharing. There's been amazing things that have come out of all these stakeholder meetings, and we want to thank all of you. It's crazy that we've had about 18 to 20 meetings over that time. A lot of them were virtual. We've recorded so many of them, and I'm working on making sure that the archive is public of all of those meetings so that you can see how things have evolved. Not every meeting has been uploaded to YouTube yet, but I have the time now. And if you were to count all the individuals and organizations, there were over 800 people involved at one time or another. That is insane to know that Rochester got so involved. And I just love some of these moments. These were just clips that I grabbed from a handful of the in-person meetings. Want to know something crazy? I want you to think back to that first meeting. That first meeting is pre-COVID.
And you were sitting right there because you.
I was sitting right there. And I was the guy who raised his hand way too often, brought Tyler's books.
You were so cute. And Hillary leaned over to me. So I was over on the right-hand side over there. She and I were standing, and Dan was talking, and she leaned over to me and she said, I'm going to get funding, and I'm going to hire that guy. That guy. She was right.
So it's been crazy. And I mean, if you look on the side over here, you will see all these recognizable names who have been part of it since the very start. I do want to also, I don't think this is all of the events that took place. I don't think the plugin that we use to map out where all the events are can handle more than 100 events at once on their map. So oops, I gotta go figure out how to do that post-eclipse, but we will get a map and share it out with everyone because, oh, you couldn't go anywhere in Rochester without hearing about the eclipse. I still can't believe Wegmans closed for half an hour. I saw Walmart's closed. I saw signs everywhere as I drove into work. The amount of eclipse-themed items everywhere. Some of them are still up as you walk around. And that is just the best. I do want to give a quick mention of what how things turned out here. By the numbers, this was taken on top of our observation deck right at totality. This photo is by Visit Rochester. I have to credit them every single time. Out of that 3-day festival, we had 6 food trucks, 21 speakers, for which almost every session was filled to the brim, 23 sponsors, 32 exhibitors, 38 planetarium shows over 3 days, which we do not do that many shows in like a week on a usual basis. 160 plus volunteers, 10,000 attendees, 29 states represented, and Canada, Puerto Rico, Germany, South Korea, and the UK all represented, and that's not every country we had here. It's insane how many people showed up here. And I wanted to point out that over since about 2021, we gave over 150 talks, and we're at outreach events. I do not recommend doing that many events in a short amount of time. For those who might remember, back in January, we did, what was it? An event almost every 3 days last year. We got the word out, and it is still insane. We're still trying to process the number of people we reached, and we thank all of you for that. To give you an idea, yet again, where people came from, this is only the zip codes that were registered and doesn't represent everyone who traveled. But this map, and we are going to get a much better photo of this, we had this by the entrance of the museum. This shows where everyone traveled from. And if you can see carefully here on some of these images on the edges, I should have gone for a world map in addition to the US map, because we had people writing down Sweden, France, South Korea, UK, Spain, Peru, Colombia, the Bahamas, I believe. This is only just a small amount of photos. And one thing I did want to share, and I don't think you've seen this photo yet. This was captured by my mom.
Oh, the one on the left.
The one on the left.
Just
For all of you who have heard me talk about sharing the eclipse with my daughter, that is my wife and daughter all cuddling up. And I can tell you, we're going to do more storytelling in a moment. My favorite story is in that 3.5 minutes, she talked almost the entire time and kept repeating, "It's dark out." So if you want an experience with a toddler during an eclipse, that is a good summary. And to give you an even crazier, idea of the eclipse and her, I've been working on the eclipse her entire life and even before then.
Yeah. There's stuff where Dan is talking and it says, I hope to have a child. We're trying to have a child. So I hope either he or she can be there for the, but this was when we were working on it still. So, and here's Leela. Yeah.
So that's just to give you a small idea. And I mean, we are still getting our photos. We are still getting videos. We are only just beginning the archival work that needs to be done to kind of capture how Rochester celebrated and how we celebrated here at the RMSC. But I can tell you, it was an absolute blast. I do want to give a personal shout out to Gallo Events because everything they did here.
She's in here in the audience.
We could not have pulled off this event without you and your team. I just want to give this very public shout out because of everything you did. Yeah, we would not have been able to work at this scale. From here, we're going to call up the Genesee Transportation Council.
You're up, Lori.
Jimmy Mo.
Oh, how exciting. That's just fantastic. So I think the fact that we can kind of stand here and say that
I think I hit something.
Oops, I hit something.
I really think I hit something.
Oh, like a cord.
No, I think I raised. Hang on.
Hold on. We'll get this back up.
Sorry, I think on the way down, I hit something.
You know what? On the last meeting, it's perfect.
Oh my God. No, it's totally on me. I
Give
know
me
I
a
did
moment.
something. Dan will fix it. Dan can do anything.
I got it. For-
No, look at that.
We'll get it back up in a second. Well, in the meantime, as we wait for the projector to come back up, the way that we will do the storytelling is we're going to kind of go back and forth between people in person and virtually.
I think it's
Won't do
booth.
anything.
The booth one won't do anything.
We're going to go back and forth between people just to make sure that we capture everyone that we can. Give it a moment.
Last official job.
Is there a time?
We do ask that you keep it relatively short. Mostly because, well, there's a decent amount of us here and a decent amount online. But if we don't get to your story today, we will make sure that everything is captured in the long run. Yep. Give it a second. It'll come right back up.
While we're waiting, can we ask John if he made it to Cleveland and back? Well, I've been dying to know the answer.
Yeah, I will wait till it's my turn.
Okay.
There we
All
are.
right, there we go. Sorry, everybody.
Then you didn't start there, but I've been dying to know that about where you are.
There we go.
Okay. I try not to bump anything. So basically, we know that we didn't have as much traffic as we anticipated. But the fact that we can say that everyone had a safe travel and viewing experience in Rochester, the fact that there were no catastrophic events, nobody was stuck in traffic, nobody missed their dialysis appointment, nobody got hurt. I mean, that stuff doesn't happen on its own, and we can't take credit for that, but our community as a whole.
He gave you credit for that.
Well,
Yeah.
The fact that we were at the table and on that agenda on that very first meeting back in 2019 is heartwarming, because sometimes people kind of forget about the logistics and things like that. So, as a community, we had this whole 9-county area ready for anybody who traveled by whatever mode that they chose. So again, that consistent and persistent messaging, the arrive early, stay late, take Tuesday too. I think people did it, I don't have great metrics, but we know they did. The fact that the public schools were closed, and employment and services were closed, even up in the last few days, we heard a few more people saying, yep, they canceled work. They said, I don't have to come in. The ambassador program, the fact that that was spread out across our region, that was wonderful from transportation. We know that a lot of the higher ed schools, universities, they either flexed their schedules or had online. They kept their students on campus. They had events right there. So that was fantastic. The museum shuttle service, I'm kind of waiting for some stats. I hope we got something. I don't need it today, but yeah, but just the fact that that was offered to help move people around. Let's see what else. Oh, and having the pre-ticketed events and being able to share that information, that was new for us anyway, that we could share that with our partners in emergency management and the people that own and operate the transportation system. So that was fantastic. And for partners being able to pre-deploy and just kind of give some thoughts. So again, the fact that we had no reports of serious crashes is fantastic. We did have the light traffic conditions. Might have been a little disappointment, a little bit, but that tells us that the locals pretty much stayed put and they didn't travel. We know that some visitors, fortunately not all, but some did decide to shift their travel plans and chase and go to the west or to the northeast. We know that people, especially in the hotels, stayed later and took Tuesday too. My own aunt, even in Syracuse, she left, Tuesday morning. So, and she actually noted that the throughway was a little bit of an uptick, and it was a little bit heavier than a normal, Tuesday morning. We had less ridership on RTS on the transit system. And we did see some fewer planned flights come into some of our general aviation airports. So I do have a little bit of data on that. And we also know that there's increased foot traffic, especially downtown and such. So even if there weren't a lot of cars buzzing around, that doesn't mean that people weren't here and things weren't successful. And go forward. Oh, okay. Okay. So I just wanted to include a little screenshot that Jim and I, the nerds that we are, sitting at home, everyone's out partying and we're watching the traffic cams because that's what we do on a regular basis. So this screenshot was about, 1:25 on Monday. I was kind of running in between talking to people and I gotta go back to my computer and get a screenshot. But for those people that think we didn't get any traffic, we did. And you can see here on the map, some of the red areas, and it was really distributed all over. And that's, definitely something a little bit different. And then this is kind of neat. This is some data that we were able to collect from a traffic data source called INRIX. And the image on the left there is showing that, the 590 southbound highway from between like 104 and 490, usually if you travel that in the morning, it's congested. It's not like New York City or Chicago busy, but it's pretty busy. That data I think was March 25th, 2 weeks before. And then the one on the right, again, just an image showing that red line was not there on April 8th. So, that's just another reminder and reinforcement that, people chose to stay home and hopefully they stayed and they were with family or they went locally or they went later in the day to go to their wherevers. So that's fantastic. And this is just a kind of a neat map we got from RTS, just kind of showing that the line on the bottom there is the ridership on Eclipse Day. And on a regular day is the top line there. That's kind of spiking up. I mean, they get a lot of ridership. And that line in the middle is just on the previous Monday during a school break. So schools, were out. So it was even less than that. So again, the fact that the message was out and, we kind of got that part wrong, that we figured people would still do their normal thing. But the residents, they listened and they chose to stay put. But I want to close before saying that, had the weather forecast changed in those last 36 hours, we'd be standing here with a completely different story. And we do know that traffic volumes were heavier up in the Northeast and in Vermont and in Tupper Lake and such and Lake Placid. And we've got tons of screenshots of that area and hearing, those stories. I don't believe there was much catastrophe or anything, but there were some delays that were reported. And then the other great thing that we heard from a lot of our partners, hopefully Dana will add to this too, but a lot of new people met each other. Then that's that long lasting benefit that we're talking about. We've gotten acquainted with people that we don't normally, and we know a lot of partnerships were established, and just going through there and saying that we're prepared was time well spent. And lastly, I love this image. It's from the Democrat Chronicle. If anyone can send me your transportation related stories, any metrics, any counts of how many people travel to your event or to your area, any observations you had, any stories, John, I'm hoping to hear yours because you're going the other direction. And other photos. Believe it or not, I kind of purposely looked around and then I sat in my office and said, why didn't I get in the car and go drive around and get some photos of somebody on a bike and stuff. So I do love this one because they were in costume and it's very clear that was on April 8th, but really please send us your stories and so that we can note that for the future. So thank you again, everybody, for including us.
Please. Come on up here. Could you come up here for a second? Move over just for 1 sec. Because Jim isn't talking right now, but I'd like you guys both to go just right in the center for 1 second, because I just want to express, Jim and Lori have been here from the very, very first, and it's one of the things that made Rochester different from everybody else, is having, when I first started attending the national meetings in 2019, so much information was that we were given was focused on how to get people like Jim and Lori, the Genesee Transportation Council, the government liaisons, people to make them believe that this was in fact a thing and it was in fact happening. But we had that already. We did not have to try to persuade you the data from 2017, I know had persuaded you. And having them such a core part of this story then became integral to the whole story, because once the National Task Force met here in 2022, in October of 2022, and y'all were talking, and so many Rochesterians were at the national meeting. That like never happens. They were floored at the years in advance participation of our community. And then after that, they asked me to co-chair the American Astronomical Society's task force. But then more important, we started exporting Rochester information at the very next meeting. So we had Jim and Lori out in Albuquerque in June of 2023. And let's see who else was there. Anita O'Brien was at that meeting. Carrie Falzone was speaking at that meeting. I was, and one other person, I can't remember who, were out there in Albuquerque. He was in San Antonio, right? So that's this esports, right? Lori, you were in Albuquerque. Yes, I knew there was somebody else. Thank you. And then in the San Antonio last national meeting, we had Scott Feibush, we had Dan Schneiderman, we had Jen Gallo, maybe somebody else, but just escaping me right now. I'm sure we did. But in other words, Rochester had a presence at all of these meetings in a pack. Everybody nationally on the national stage knew what we had accomplished. And it's thanks to the leadership of people like this who were able to sort of spread that word and get everybody else fired up about this. So I just want to, if you guys could stand for a second, just because Jim and Lori just really completely, I just didn't want the moment to pass without Jim also getting recognized. We are so grateful for all of your work. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, you're gonna do the Visit Rochester one? Okay.
So one thing that happened at Visit Rochester this past Tuesday, I don't know if you have worked with Visit Rochester in depth, but the amount of work that they did behind the scenes to support the eclipse, they went above and beyond. The reason why a lot of us got that national coverage was heavily because of their work. They really united us. They promoted all of our work. And then it was them who coordinated this at the Rochester Visitor Industry Council meeting on Tuesday. Mayor Malik Evans and County Executive Adam Bello
interrupted Dan as he was talking,
which was great.
That was crazy. So yeah, I mean, they brought us all up there, and then we were like, okay, we're supposed to say something. So Dan starts talking, and then all of a sudden Mayor Evans charges up the aisle and says, Dan, just be quiet. I'm seizing the podium. So then he started talking, and then he and Adam were just so wonderful to just sort of feel the love from the rest of the community. They wanted to make sure that that was expressed to us, but also to everybody. So again, we get it. We know what we did.
And one thing that was pointed out to me earlier is it is very rare to see both the city logo and the county's logo next to each other on any recognition.
Yeah. But our city and county play together well in the sandbox.
Yes,
it's awesome. Like really unprecedented. Everybody else had trouble with their government. We got to brag about the city and the county and the state, and really New York just shone in all of this.
And this,
yeah, exactly. Right. So everybody, it was just,
you could not go to an eclipse event without running into them. They were hopping events.
Yep.
Which is wild.
It was incredible. Yeah.
One other thing we do want to mention, and we will put this link in the chat as well. A lot of you know Tyler Nordgren at this point, as the artist behind the Rochester Eclipse posters and so many more. And within the last couple of weeks,
yeah,
I'll say how
this actually happened. So he and I were driving up from New York. We had just taped at Inside Edition and NBC, and he was saying, wow, this has been a whole year of having the posters travel throughout Rochester, and he's very proud of this. Started with Hillary Stott's idea at Men in 64, and it's a different location each month. And I said, well, he said, wouldn't it be great if we could sort of auction it off or something? I said, what's meaningful to you? And he said, actually, his close friend has just gotten diagnosed with ALS. And so I said, say no more. And so I went to the ALS Association in the country and just said, I've got the world's premier eclipse artist's artwork that's been traveling. He'll sign it. and y'all can auction it off. They said done. They were so fast. And so this auction is now up. That's the QR code if you want to scan it. And you could be one of the recipients of a signed Tyler Nordgren piece of art. You could also visit it on the 3rd floor until Monday, I think is when it's coming down here at the RMSC. Yeah.
So we did want to give a massive shout out. Actually did chat with him in the past week. He sends all of his love. He is exhausted. He is still selling his posters. I do want to point that out. During the entire phone call I had with him, he was just stuffing tubes of posters to mail out. I recommend asking him sooner than later.
Did he even like 48 hours before the event get a request? We were in a meeting like the
Yeah.
governor's office.
Yeah.
The governor's office called him 48 hours in advance of the eclipse and said, can you ship all your New York posters to us? He's like, okay.
But he created one just like
Yeah.
2 days before that.
Yeah, he's just incredible.
We do want to point out, while this is the last stakeholder meeting, it is not the end of our eclipse celebrations. On Monday, there is the what's the
I'll talk
actual
about it, So, okay. So, the American Marketing Association's Rochester chapter had approached me and was, you know, impressed with how we were marketing Rochester. And I asked if I would coordinate a panel to discuss sort of really do a deep dive into the marketing of our region. So we've got Diana Keating from Visit Rochester, Lindsay Compitello from here at the RMSC. We have Paige Engard from Genesee Country Village. We have Dan Mason from the Red Wings, and we have Herb Griffith from the RPO. So that's this Monday over there at the planetarium. And you just ask me, or just, you know, send, we'll put the link in the chat to where you can sign up if you'd like to go to that. And then storytelling. So this, we'd not only like you to show up to this, we'd like you to invite young people, regular people who weren't working on this. We want to record those stories about what the eclipse meant to them, to everybody. So that will be Sunday, May 5th in Pulteneyville. In Gates Hall, and I had never been there before. I gave a talk there in January. It's wonderful. It's the oldest theater in continual existence in the country, and Frederick Douglass gave 3 anti-slavery talks there. So it's a deeply meaningful place to have this community storytelling, and you can stand where Frederick Douglass gave, did I mention 3 talks about slavery? So, and tell your stories to be recorded for posterity. So that's free. I hope everybody comes. It's also my birthday. I think there's going to be cake.
Of other things to note, be on the lookout for surveys. I know we're working on collecting data about the impact of the eclipse. I know Visit Rochester is working on collecting data. Expect emails still from us. We'll be reaching out. We have lots of questions. If you have any photos or video or stories you would like captured, please send them to me. I know I've started to send out this information. No, putting on my museum hat, hey, we archive things. This is one of my main tasks to do right now. And this is what we'll be doing over the next couple months, is getting your photos, getting your videos. We want to record a lot of those stories. If you have anything written down, any initial thoughts, we want them. If you have any items unique to the eclipse, please let me know. I personally want to see them enter our archive as well. I'll be working on capturing this data for all of the ambassadors that are here. And I see a lot of you here. Oh, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra emails related to this. We have data to collect, but we really want to preserve the story here in Rochester to tell. We'll also probably be reaching out in about a year, give or take, whenever the documentary comes out that a lot of us were featured in. They're in editing. I can only imagine all the footage that they have to go through. I want to say on Eclipse Day, they were in 18 different cities.
All the way up to Nova Scotia.
From Mazatlan to Nova Scotia. We'll also be in touch about trying to capture any advice you would give to future organizers. I know one of our big goals is to work on white papers. I'm guessing Jim and Lori have to work on that as well at some point. We have a lot of writing to do. So we will be asking for any advice you want passed, not only for, the eclipse here in Rochester in 2144, or even in 2079 when it hits New York State again, but for all of those eclipse organizers around the world. So any advice you have, we would love to hear it. Once again, here's how you can get in touch with us. At this point, I think all of you do have our contact info. Probably have us on speed dial. I also want to point out, I forgot to add a slide on this. I am still taking eclipse classes to be recycled. We are participating in the Astronomers Without Borders program. We are officially saying May 1st as the date. I will take eclipse classes after May 1st. It's just easier to say that specific date. I need to relieve some of our guest services staff and the mail room here of all the eclipse classes. I should have added a photo of all the mail we just got in today. And not just from Rochester, but from all over New York and even outside of here.
Take a picture, just not add it, or
I did take a picture this morning, but forgot to add it. It was right before we started opening up about 40 pieces of mail and packages, all containing multiple number of eclipse classes. All good things. We will be passing all those on. With that, I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to go back and forth. If anyone has a story, feel free to line up on this side. We will kind of keep it to 2 minutes. I will put a 2-minute counter on my phone.
And I just texted you the link to sign up for Monday if you want to stick that in the chat, because I know you have it on your phone.
Yep, I will do that as well. But to start online, if anyone, feel free to use the raise your hand function. That way I can go in order. Dana, did you want to?
Dana, actually, if Dana maybe start.
Yeah, I can go ahead. So first of all, I want to thank everyone here for. Can you hear me okay, Dan?
Yes, I'm moving you to the projector.
Oh, okay. Can I keep going or no?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone on this call who helped make the government's work easier, because everyone was at the table and included so early on. And just kind of the partnerships that were created, like Lori was mentioning earlier, have just been incredible. So we did really luck out in terms of the amount of traffic that we saw not being as bad as we had anticipated, which wound up working in our favor. Overall, it was a really great experience, and we were actually able to go outside and enjoy it ourselves too. So that was nice. But yeah, that's really all I have.
Thank you so much. Pillar, I would say come and take this spot right here. I'm going to turn on.
And be careful about the
cables and
cables.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Pilar Osorio Godoy. I am the president of Grupo Cultural Latinos in Rochester. I'm also the co-chair of the DEIB committee in the Rochester Women's Network and a board member there too. And Evelyn and myself, as ambassadors from Grupo Cultural, we ended up collaborating with the Rochester Women's Network, and we did an event at the I Square in Irondequoit on the rooftop. And it was really fun because we did shows. We brought some of our artists from Grupo Cultural. We had Evelyn and Mario danced Panamanian dance. Carlos Lack brought Alma de Mexico and did Mexican dance. We had Grupo Phoenix did some Puerto Rican dance. City Twirlers did some baton twirling dances and Chilean dances. And in particular, I'm really happy because my sister came all the way from Chile to spend it with me. And my Chilean friend in Philadelphia drove all the way here too to spend it with us. So it was really, really happy and really emotional. So it was great. Thank you.
We're going to go back and forth.
Okay.
Anita?
Hi, everyone. Great to see everybody. And I just wanted to say thank you for the accessibility team from the stakeholder task force who really, I think, sparked some movement, not just for this eclipse, but for our community as a whole moving forward. And I'm very appreciative of the conversations, the positioning of ourselves for a larger discussion around what accessible recreation and tourism in general look like. And I'm I thank you for the conversations that we had there that did really hone in on this event from that perspective. A shout out to Southeast Area Coalition for really showcasing and pulling us forward for some of the inclusivity amenities that you provided for that, as well as area organizations who were specifically focusing on making sure that families who have a member with a disability had not only the science behind what happened, but access to group experience as well as meet experiences. So I think we did well as a community, highlighting ourselves nationally on this particular topic of accessibility and inclusive experience. So kudos to everyone for all the work that was done there. Thanks.
Yep, come on up. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nate Swinney. I'm the Vice President. Hi, Kiki. Nice to finally meet you. Vice President of Skilled Services at St. John's Nursing Home. In 2017, traveled to Dollywood and had the most incredible experience of my life with the eclipse there, and was so excited to bring this to the elders at St. John's. We had a wonderful day. The production crew from Cue Ball was there all day and captured not only the experience, but so many memories and lifetimes of information from the elders. That was just spectacular. Two pieces that I would really like to throw out as a thank you. One, to you guys for this amazing job organizing our community all throughout every step of this. And two, to Kiki and the Southeast Area Coalition, who managed to track down big rolls of the material, where we then took and made these very fancy viewers for our residents, so that both staff up on the floor who were not able to leave their post because they're caring for people could look out the window and experience the event, as well as elders who have any sort of limitation that might stop them from being able to wear the glasses themselves. We had these going. What I told the film crew, and what I'll tell you guys right now, is the last time nursing homes were making personal protective devices on our own, it was a very different experience than what we got to do with this. This was joyous. So thank you all.
Do we have anyone online who would like to chime in? Otherwise, we will move on to our next person here. Remember to use the Mark, you would like to.
Yes. Am I good to go?
Yep.
Okay. A week ago, I had my knee replaced, so I'm convalescing at home. And I was glad I did that after the eclipse. So I'm Mark from Lazy Acre Alpacas. We had a very unique event at our farm where we limited the number of people by how many cars we could park, and we were able to park about 100 cars, and that came up to about 220 people. So figure in 2.2 people per car. We started the day with a hour's worth of yoga, and we had 28 people for that, and they were all excited about at 1:30 joining the eclipse people. We had food trucks, beverage trucks, and I was really surprised at how many out of towners. Everybody was from out of town, out of state, shall I say. And many people drove up from New York City and were planning on driving right back that same day for the event. So it was great. Our event went off without a hitch. And, I got to thank everybody for getting the word out, because people wouldn't have known about Lazy Acre Alpacas unless the word was out there. And we appreciate the work that you guys have done, as well as the advertisement that you got our word out. So we are kind of on the map. We expect a lot of visitors to come back to the farm. And it was just a great event for us. And it was funny, right at the end of the totality, I want to say 10 minutes afterward, it started sprinkling. and everybody headed for their cars. And by 4:30, the parking lot was empty and it was over, and we were ready to sit down and have some birthday cake. It was my birthday.
Oh,
So I have shirts left over. So if anybody wants an Apocalypse 24 shirt, please email me at lazyacre8830@outlook.com. So thank you very much.
Thank you for mentioning the shirts. Literally, I was just asked to bring up the shirts. So you are one step ahead. Lori, would you like to come?
Thank you. This one?
Yep.
Doesn't matter. For all you don't know me, I am Lori Bajorek. I'm the president of the National Esports Association. And going back to what Deb said earlier, when I was in Albuquerque and I got to present our Minecraft Eclipse experience to a bunch of heliophysicists, and I was very intimidated. But from then to today, I have made more connections as a result of this. And I am proud to say that we did a live stream next to NASA on Twitch with 1.1 million viewers. Thank you. I wasn't here in Rochester, but what I was on a rooftop in New York City doing the stream with NASA with Eclipse people across the country. And what a blessing it has been to experience this and to bring something that nobody thought could come together. You know, esports and Eclipse doesn't make any sense, right? But the theme on our Twitch stream was URL meets IRL. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And when we saw our numbers, it was a mind-changing experience and such a joyful thing. And as a result of this, we are doing more with our lookup campaign. So we're going on to do stargazing and then working with NASA on going to the moon next year. And without Deb and Dan and everybody else embracing what it is that I do, which is esports, and understanding that there is more to gaming than just gameplay. So as a result of that, I say thank you to everyone who helped and supported our mission. And here's to the next excursion, and hope that we all continue to look up. Thank you.
Martin, I see your hand is raised. Martin, do you want to unmute?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. This is Martin Pepe. I'm a ASRAS astronomy member, part of the local group of guys that have the site out in Ionia, New York. I'd like to share some simple images. I mean, I know the weather wasn't exactly the best, so Dan, I don't know. Oh, I think you got to okay it.
Yep, give me a second.
No problem.
Give it a shot.
There we go. Okay. So what I'd like to share with you is something that you don't normally get, especially in Western New York. There's obviously an image of the eclipse, optical image through a hole in the clouds, and some others. All right. There's an example of the setup in my driveway. 3 radio telescopes and a optical one, which wasn't much good, obviously. But we have, let's see, KU band, 12 gigahertz here. This one is for 1.424 gigahertz. That's the hydrogen line. And then this one's a wideband one. This is the precursor to some hardware my students are working on at RIT for a radio telescope to study sunspots. And then there's the computer setup, so you could just see the hydrogen line peak there. And there is what the weather was like. And there was one I thought you might get a kick out of. The turned actually the driveway light on. It got so hot. I mean, you know, so dark. Okay. And then there's when it started lighting up again. That's it. Like I said, you probably see the optical stuff all over the place. You probably don't ever see the radio.
Thanks for
Of
sharing
course,
that.
you gotta have the patience of a saint to do optical astronomy in Western New York, I think.
And I believe we can see some of your students work at Imagine RIT in just over a week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And yes, sir. And they've also got the other project that I'm working on is a group of my fellow students are working on a rover and a drone for the Mars competition out in Utah. And they'll have some of that stuff on display in Fieldhouse as well.
Fantastic. We'll be sure to keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Next month.
Brad.
Hi, I'm John Beal from Calkins Road Middle School. When I first had the idea to write an Eclipse musical, a friend of my wife said you should talk to my friend Deb Ross. And I called her up and she said, well, this is incredible. You're going to have chances for national media. And I said, well, this lady's really optimistic. This is a middle school musical, but we went forward and it was a chance to make it an opportunity much more than your average middle school musical, something our whole community could get behind, and a chance for our students to share the stage with a few cameo guests who came in, Rebecca, Deb, Scott, and Hope, a chance to talk with a few of those people. And Rebecca, I have to tell you, they all played a receptionist in a record studio, and Rebecca's line was to stand up and say, I've got news for you. This band is going somewhere. And then a kid turned to Rebecca and said, news? What do you know about news? And she got a huge laugh. And I don't know if you saw her come off a stage, Rebecca, but she had a giant smile on her face. And that moment alone was priceless. Near the end of the show, there's a scene where like all these characters who were struggling, everything starts to come together and all the dominoes start falling from all the hard work and teamwork that they've had. And they all start getting these calls with good news. And the last, the first week of April, it was kind of like life imitated art. Because we got a call from Good Morning America that said, we want your kids to record something. And we got home from Friday's rehearsal and somebody calls us and said, we just saw your kids on the CBS Nightly News. It was just before the mayor of Rochester and just after Roebuck's. So that shows you, where we place an importance there. And we had camera crews, 2 different crews out at our performances. And for those kids to know, like, wow, there are people, professionals with cameras that want to see what we're doing, just created this incredible excitement. And then the piece de resistance that we were featured in the New York Times on Monday morning. And there's a wonderful article. If you haven't seen it, I printed out a copy and put it back there. Deb said brag, Deb said brag. And it was an incredible journey. Did I just touch the cord? I just touched the magic cord. I plugged it back in.
We'll be good. There we are.
But I'm not projecting anything, so it's okay, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a second part to my story is my brother got engaged in December. And when I saw him in February, I'm like, are you going to do anything or just doing it just as a peace thing? And he says, we're going to have a celebration, but you might not be able to be there. It's April 8th. Well, there was no way I'm going to miss my brother's wedding. So we closed down the show on April 7th, packed everything away. Now, the week before, I'm looking at the weather and it says Rochester, chance of rain, 6%. Cleveland, which is where the wedding was, chance of rain, 38%. I'm like, oh man, do I have to make a decision between seeing this event that I've been working for 7 months, 9 months, and my brother's wedding? Of course, I'm going to my brother's wedding, right? I had to make that decision. And then in a strange twist of fate, it rained all night, April 7th in Cleveland. And by 7 a.m., it was clear. The weather there was about a week and a half ahead of what it was here. So all the beautiful pink flowers and white flowers that we see on the trees right now were in place. And it was a beautiful wedding that started right at the moment of first contact. And then we had some dinner and watched Totality together. And I did get to see Totality. The whole time, everyone that we worked with on the show, we're all in a big text group, all the directors, they're texting us, it's cloudy here, we can't, see a thing. And so that was a bittersweet moment to know that my wife and I were enjoying it, and all our dear friends and students were seeing the clouds. And then I got home, and like everybody in the school knows now that I'm the eclipse guy, right? And so kids wanted to talk to me at first class about the eclipse. And I told them about totality, and it was spectacular, but there were a couple of other things that were really impressive too. And one was the 360-degree yellowy orange all the way around. And the kids said, we saw that here in Rochester. I'm like, okay, that was one of the big parts. And then the other part was the return of the light. If you're ever up before sunrise, walking the dog like I am, that you know that it gets light so gradually that you don't even notice it. But the return of the light, it wasn't like a light switch. It was like somebody opened up a gate and it just kind of flowed back in. And to me, that was the most impressive thing. So my thoughts to those of you that were here in Rochester, you still got to see that. And that was magnificent. I feel like I've gone over my 2 minutes, but I certainly appreciate the time up here. Thank you.
Actually, that kind of reminds me, did anyone see the shadow move over the clouds? That was one of those rare things that we got to see that a lot of other people didn't. And that was quite the sight. I know a couple people pointed it out here. You can see it so much more in videos. Jessica, since we're going back and forth. Jessa, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm still wearing a sweatshirt, and I'm from the Helmer Nature Center, and we're in Western Irondequoit. And we collaborated with the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Monroe County and the Rec Center in the town of Irondequoit. And we had a great festival. We called it Together in Totality, and it was right on the Helmer grounds. And we had about 500 people. And some of the big draws were a bounce house and a Gaga pit, which I didn't know what that was, but I'm really glad we had it because it entertained all the kids. We had several food trucks. And I had seen Totality in 2017 in Idaho. And that's what got me so excited about it, this event. And it was just awesome participating the whole year. I do have to say I was pretty disappointed. It was really emotional with the weather. So I was kind of doing a little bit of mourning, especially when, you know, the sky cleared up that night, and then the next day with the gorgeous weather. I really had to work through a lot of stuff, and I couldn't really find anything online to help me work through it until my mom suggested that I listen to the Evan Dawson show. And hearing Deb and Dan on that show really helped me to kind of work through my feelings and just all the positive things you guys said there, and the other guests. That was really meaningful because I really couldn't find anything else online to help me, you know, figure it out. But then also with our program, we had hundreds of 5th and 6th graders come to do a full day field trip at Helmer, all about the eclipse beforehand, like starting in December to March. And then we did debriefing field trips all last week and this week with the 5th and 6th graders. And it was actually really valuable to hear what they had to say. And they also had disappointment, but they also had, you know, the same sense that we all had, that it was something really cool. It did get dark, it did get cold. But just having them express their thoughts and their emotions, we had them do a reflection piece, writing a poem or a drawing, and we're getting prepared to share those with the museum. But yeah, I'm still working through it, and every time it's sunny out, I'm like, but when it's gloomy and rainy, I can deal. But yeah, so just like it really helped me think about expectations and just kind of accepting what you get. And honestly, it really was magical. The sky is still something that was a once in a lifetime sky with the clouds. So thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I will say, I know I was definitely feeling the exact same way. If you do still feel this way, the one thing I encourage you to do is to write down your thoughts, talk to other people, and hear some of the stories of the people who you got to experience the eclipse with, or just the stories from around the region. It honestly has helped. I can tell you mentally, I was not in the best place in that first 48 hours afterwards. Whether that's from the clouds or, reaching that point after years, and being very sleep deprived initially. It really does help. There are resources out there, and if you need someone to talk to, hey, I have a bit more time on my hands. Victoria. Yep.
Come on up towards us here.
I'll probably hit the cord.
You'll hit,
I'm gonna hit the
you're gonna hit the
steps.
stairs first.
Okay, there's going up.
Yep.
Then you're gonna get to me.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay,
we got a 5:30. We're busting out after that.
so I'm gonna start. I had the great pleasure of being able to, my name is Vicki Robertson, and yeah, I should start there. And I'm one of the mentors for the XCATS robotics team. And, we were thrilled to, we were thrilled to be able to be chosen as community ambassadors for this. And I sort of thought, we'll just do some sort of small event at Wilson High School, try to invite 19th Ward people. I don't know. Our competition season ended April 2nd. So it was very fortunate that one of these eclipse meetings, Kiki and I already knew each other, but I did not know you were doing this.
Neither did I.
Yeah. And so we met each other, I came up to her after the meeting and said, oh, you're doing this. And then I'm like, Dan, can we partner? Is that okay? And he's like, I love partners. That's fine. So we built this amazing partnership with Kiki working on inclusivity and access and making the eclipse visible to people who couldn't see. And we brought in from the XCATS this youth. We brought in the whole student body from Wilson High School. So we had the chorus, the old guard jazz musicians that were
The Mambo Kings.
Yes,
For free.
not the whole Mambo Kings, but Jose Padilla. But we had some awesome musicians that were playing, and Kiki had got all these sponsors and things. We were there with our robot. One of my favorite things was talking with one of the science teachers who had helped to build our visibility tents. But the kids that came with her, and she's like, they were so excited that it got dark. She's like, I don't think they really believed us that it was going to happen. But these were like, and some of them pretty tough kids that were just so excited. So, the community building that happened, for anyone feeling like, oh, we missed it because we couldn't see it. First off, you get Kiki's perspective on not seeing it, but also the community building was incredible that happened. I'll let you talk.
Thank you. Public hug. Thank you. I think that was probably the 2 minutes, so I'll be as quick as I can. I'm leaving presents up here. You can find them later. But we are Sarah Glauser and Kiki Smith from Seek, and yeah, you're gonna get the Catholic in me right now. I call her Mother Nature. You might call her God, but I hats off to every one of the event organizers. Like, hello, it didn't rain. It didn't snow. I got pretty excited that morning. And for the people who expressed the disappointment, I am disappointed I was disappointed that was their takeaway. Because I had the best eclipse of my life. I've only had 2, but
you know, through this ambassador program and the relationships, shout out to Tasha Perone and Accessible Adventures and our sister celebration, Parrington's Total Eclipse of the Park. We were able not only to have an event that happened on site, but we reached thousands of people who tuned into our national live sweep of totality from Texas through Vermont of the Light Sound Box. You guys, all right. I tried for 3 years to get media attention. You throw a little accessibility in the mix and CNN calls you. Like, seriously? That's my marketing tip. Think about the blind, okay? And our light sound device allowed me and thousands of people with neurodiversity and vision issues and everybody else too, to hear the music of that day. There was no flute tone. That was supposed to be the high-pitched sunny day, started in the clarinet, but the suspense and intensity and like, it was beyond words. So I am so grateful. I learned more in the last, I've only really been at this about 6 months. Honestly, you guys worked harder, but our organization doesn't do disability. We do community building and resource sharing, and the resource sharing and community building, like Vicki said, that we've been able to do. Wilson High School doesn't make Good Morning America. Okay, Wilson High School made Good Morning America. And we had incredible diversity. We had people come by bike and boat to Genesee Valley Park. We'll talk transportation. But I've got RIT student created light sound devices here for Deb and Dan. I live in totality pins. Oh wait, are those still in my back pocket? Oh, here's one. The RIT kids made us mementos. We're a tool lending library. It's a 6-inch measuring stick, but it's got the path to the contact and our little logo, and it can be a Christmas ornament or a key fob or whatever. So we got some really amazing experiences from this. One of which was totality. I would like, before I leave, to get my glasses autographed by Deb and Dan, and I'm actually serious right now. Sorry. Here they are.
Yep.
Okay, so Tyler Nordgren was my TA for astronomy at Cornell. He doesn't remember me because I didn't go to class. But it's been really cool reconnecting with him. We got reunion coming up. And I am ready to get back to my real job, but we've been doing our real job throughout this Eclipse event building experience and the stewardship of science and community and resources. And okay, that's it. Thank you.
And I've got buttons, if anybody would like some Eclipse buttons.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
those.
you. Yeah. So feel a little guilty if you didn't get your pretty picture. I got a really good tattoo on my heart. All right.
It's coming down.
Oh, down. It's always
Yeah,
harder.
yeah,
up.
okay.
You're not getting away without a hug, Kiki.
That's the wrong one. Okay, no, me. Thank you. Have a good week. We're gonna go do community gardening now. Okay.
He's over here.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry, just making sure things work.
Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you.
Well, trust me, not at the end of the partnership.
Here, read this. I'll bring it back.
Oh, did you read the books too?
Sarah, behind you.
You can feel it.
Does anyone online want to join? Otherwise, we will go back to in person. We do have about 12-15 minutes officially. I've been told we can probably push it a little bit as well.
It's just a Fisher online.
We just did Jessa and Mark. You want to come on? We will be recording more of these, and I will set up more sessions as well.
Hi, so I'm going to keep it really, really brief, at least try to. My name is Lindsay. I'm from Laughing Chocolates. We did a lot of things. We hosted a number of events, which were really cool. The first one we did on Thursday, and we had a lot of local people. The ones on Saturday and Sunday, we had people from all over the country who came to visit, which was just kind of neat to see how many people were coming to visit. I think my favorite part was when my kids during totality, like a couple of you have said, were just in awe of how it actually got dark and, you know, feeling like actually feeling the eclipse, feeling totality. It didn't really matter to them that they didn't see the corona, although my family's trying to plan a trip to Spain in a couple of years, so we'll see. I mainly wanted to share that for those here in person, I have some cacao pulp truffles that are left from the eclipse, and I would love to share them all with you. They're in the back. For those of you online, if there are any left tomorrow, I'll be happy to save some for you if you want to come by the shop on East Main Street. So huge thank you to Deb and Dan. We've loved working with you. Yeah, so well, this was Friday night. I got a call around 4 o'clock. We had done ABC Digital earlier that week. I don't know, it's all a blur. So national online outlet around 3:30, 4 o'clock, I got a call on my cell phone from World News Tonight, ABC, and they said, can you send us a video? You know, we want X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. They thought they wanted it for Monday, and they actually wanted it within like the hour. So I was trying to get my baby to sleep. I wore him over. I could walk to the shop, walked over there, and so you can actually see his head on the clip. So he and I gave a quick little video, and it ran at the very last minute of World News Tonight. So like 6:59, 7 o'clock, my phone was going off like crazy, and we had a lot of interest, it was amazing. And that, like, Rochester Laughing Chocolates would not have gotten that attention without all of the work that you did. And so really, I mean, we did a little bit of it too. Okay.
Anybody else? There's somebody online who has their hand raised. I don't know. One hand.
Martin, did you? What?
He's already dead.
Yeah, just lowering the hand. Cool.
Stuart.
Oh, Dan, one of the things I wanted to mention to everybody, one of the things I wanted to mention to everybody is about that Ring doorbell discussion we had.
Yes, we'll quickly mention this and then we'll jump back into the queue.
Yeah. Want me to go?
Yep.
Yeah, just a quickie, guys. Everybody's got Ring doorbells. And I'd like you to take a look at your video feed for the time of the eclipse. Rochester was about 3:22. So I'm collecting snippets from everybody, and I'm going to make a little vignette with just the Ring doorbells in the community. I've got 3 or 4 of them from my neighbors already. So if you happen to have one in your feed, download it and send it to Dan, and he can send it to me. How's that? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to mention quickly in the chat before Stuart comes up, Debbie Lyon from the Finger Lakes Museum also has more Eclipse t-shirts available, and her email is dlyon@fingerlakesmuseum.org. Just want to get that out there. Stuart.
Hello, my name is Stuart, and I'm an Eclipse event planner.
Hi, Stuart.
So at SUNY Brockport, were we disappointed by our numbers? Yes. Were we disappointed by the clouds? Yes. When I was driving away from campus that evening into the direct sunlight, was it blinding me? Yes. Was it mocking me? Yes. No. But what the day did teach me about was expectations. And also sort of, I took a lesson from Deb and had a me moment during totality instead of a we moment. I did step away, and it taught me a little bit about the power of darkness, which if anybody really knows me, they'd know I am far from being a Pollyanna. But that is my Pollyanna takeaway, the power of darkness and that clouds don't matter. And the other thing I want to say to anyone who can burst into tears in the middle of a meeting is don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened. That is all.
Well, I want to echo a lot of what everybody just said. Stuart, you were dead on that. But also, my name is Rebecca LeClaire, and I was representing Blue Wolf Bistro, and encourage them, did everything that we talked about with marketing, change the names of all your cocktails, do special events, and it worked. And because Deb is such a numbers freak, and I love her to death, I have to give you this report because this is what I got from Blue Wolf Bistro, which is on Park Avenue. Friday, we had an Eclipse cocktail party with Heron Hill Eclipse Wine. They came and did tasting because we're all connected here. They were up 28% on that day. On Saturday and Sunday, we did a totally bottomless brunch. And compared to the week before, they were up 58% on Saturday and 109% on Sunday. And the best thing, I got a text on Saturday night from one of the owners, and he said, I have to thank you. I would never have suspected that we would do this well, and I would never have believed, at first I didn't believe you, and I would never have suspected that the Eclipse would turn into a wonderful experience for us business-wise, but also the whole staff, because they all got t-shirts and they all wore those stupid head things that I made for everybody. But I share too a little bit of the grief that I felt the days after. I felt grief during the darkness, but now I know what the darkness is like, and my husband wants to take me to Spain to see the lightness. And I'm excited about this, but nobody has talked about this. I wore flip-flops that day, and I wanted to be grounded. I wanted to have my feet out, and I was in the grass, and we all came back together. I had my me moment, and I had my shoes on. All of a sudden, I felt a rustling, and I had read that in a description that there's a rustling, and I said, does anybody else feel that? And they all had shoes on. And I was the only one that didn't have their shoes. So next eclipse, take your shoes off. Wow. It was really cool. It was like little birds flying by. It was that much fun. It was really cool.
Hi, I'm Michael Grenier, Rochester Academy of Science, and I was pleased to have Martin on the line earlier describing how he was working with the radio telescopes during the eclipse. The Rochester Academy of Science has got 5 sections, different sciences. The astronomy one's the most popular, and I want to give them a shout out because besides buying and having the board buy 21,000 eclipse glasses from the museum and distributing through the community, they provided speakers and a lot of other outreach support over the last several years. And on Eclipse Day, they opened up the observatory, which is the largest observatory in New York State. We operate that. It's doesn't have the biggest telescope, but it's got the most telescopes and the largest grounds. They completely filled up the grounds for parking and had to borrow more parking from the Ionia Fire Department across the street. And I only wish that somebody from the leadership on that group was here to talk about what they accomplished, but they ran scientific astronomy programming all day long. I wasn't there because I had 14 guests in from out of town, relatives and friends. The high point for them, and I haven't heard anybody say it yet, but we went to a festival. Now, maybe I don't get to enough festivals, but it was the uniform agreement of all of my guests that the festival at the Rochester Museum and Science Center was the best festival they've ever been to. And one of the things they really liked, they said they don't get to many festivals where there's so many engaging, interesting, exciting speakers that was put on that program on Sunday. So that was absolutely delightful. One thing I wanted to share for future eclipses, and this is thanks to my niece from Maine, she made sure that everybody got a stamped postcard made up for the eclipse, put them in the mail so that everybody got a postcard postmarked on the day of the eclipse from Rochester, New York. I don't know if anybody else did that here, but that ought to be on the list for future eclipse areas that are going to do that. The eclipse event I went to, as I said, it wasn't at my own Rochester Science Academy of Science event, but we had another smaller Rochester Academy of Science event on the center line. We discovered that our vice president, Jeff Gutterman, and his wife Barb lived on the center line, plus or minus 3/10,000ths of a degree. We're not exactly sure on the calculations. So we put a center line on his lawn, and he had a party of dozens and dozens of people there, including all of guests I dragged in from out of town. We lined everybody up on the center line and took a group photograph of it. And we told them well in advance, you're coming to Rochester, there's a good chance it's going to be cloudy. So we had a list of everything that they should sense. When you can't see the moon covering the sun, here's the things you will see, because you've never seen clouds like that before. You've never seen them behave like that before in the light. And all of the other things that they should feel and sense and see. And absolute agreement, the high point for them was sunset in 4 different directions at the same time. It was a great event. I had people come in from South Dakota, and they didn't regret making the drive here and back again for experiencing the eclipse here in Rochester. And they had seen totality in 2017. They said, this is a completely different experience. Thank you very much, Rochester, for putting this on.
The question is, Deb, do you want to give your experience?
Oh, sure.
Somebody should shout out RPO too.
Oh,
Yeah, let me, yeah, let's
here,
talk
it's-
about everybody who went to the RPO the night before, online and here, and you put up your hand or your hands. There's not that many people left online, but yeah, that was something.
I had to text Deb, who was stuck outside
I was
trying.
stuck outside trying to get in, yeah, because of those lines. The lines out the doors, both ends, last down to St. Paul Street. I've never
Across the
seen anything
bridges.
across the bridges. Yeah, they had to start half an hour late, and I didn't even get in time to. I didn't, hear the downbeat there because it was just crazy. But it was wonderful, crazy, right? That was great.
I mean, the photos from that, it was
just
over 7,300 people in
Right, they
attendance.
sold out, and it's the biggest attendance the RPO has ever seen, and it's their 100th anniversary. So yay RPO! Yeah, that's sort of like just such a signature, beautiful event for. And so yeah, so on Sunday I went from being the guest on John's the last midnight at midday and saying my lines about different than Rebecca's slightly, but although your lines were written on my thing, I had to make up my own lines from my memory because we had Rebecca's yeah, they didn't switch it. So I was like, I'm not gonna get a laugh with the news. I gotta go back to the entertainment thing. But yeah, so it was a hell of a week. I said yes to another documentary crew in addition to the totality crew who followed me that whole week through media and meetings and everything, and it was fascinating and stressful. And that when I was in on Thursday, we were in a diner and we had just recorded at Legends or something, and I got a text from Dan Mason, and the text said, "Would you like to throw out the opening day ball at the Red Wings game?" And I said, "Oh my God, Dan's just asked me to throw out the opening ball." And Ezra reached under the table, pulled out his camera, and said, "Do it again." So we'll see if that makes it, but it was very unnerving, and they were lovely young men, and I really hope that their documentary showcases Rochester, and I hope the totality documentary showcases Rochester. We went out to the Genesee Country Village, and my 14 guests and from out of town, and basically I did media all day. I was on with the BBC Business Report and CNN and Fox and all these others. And it was good. It was part of the mission, right? It was good for Rochester for this. But I am going to Spain in 2026 and I'm organizing nothing and I'm going to be on no media and I'm just going to be with all these friends from here who are intending to go to Spain and all the friends from around the country. So it was wonderful and crazy. And then I went to Brazil the next day and it was just what I needed. So I guess that's it. But
Any of you know if the RPO happened to record that show like a DVD? Like my daughter was, it's not.
I don't know.
We can find
We'll
out.
find out on Monday. Herb Griffith will be there at the Strasbourg
Yeah.
Planetarium, and he'll let us all know how that marketing will continue. I expect they would, but yeah, it really was.
The only additional bit I want to share about the day of the eclipse for myself was, I had the Totality documentary crew. They were in my hotel room. I stayed at the Strathallan to be walking distance. They were there at 4 a.m. For which I had to be here at 4:30 a.m. To give you an idea of timing. The morning, yet again, lots of media like Deb. The Philly crew that came out was wild.
Yes, they were.
I got to reunite with my wife and daughter that day, which was amazing, getting to see my daughter for all that. We did a stage show. A lot of us were improvising up there since we couldn't do exactly what we had planned, but we still had a blast. Totality came. I got to stay next to my wife and daughter, as I had mentioned earlier. After Totality, a bunch of us went off to our president's office to do a toast. I was told to give the toast, open up the bottle of champagne, and that is when I completely broke down in front of everyone, which, if I had to break down in front of our staff, that was the time, that was the moment. And honestly, I will remember that moment so much more vividly than like anything I did on stage. It's only up there with like being next to my wife and daughter that weekend. But it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's been a hell of a couple years. I'm sure we're all going to be chatting for a lot longer. I'm going to chase down a bunch of you to record your stories.
Yep, come out on May 5th, please, so that we can have them all recorded easily for that. But yeah, I mean.
And I'm sure we'll see everyone, of course, at the documentaries.
Yep.
Whenever we premiere them.
You
But
guys
otherwise,
are awesome. This has just been the best thing ever.
over this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best thing ever, everybody.
And with that, I guess we'll
Say goodbye.
say goodbye and close out the task force.
Yeah.
Thanks. Oh yeah, no, I have work to do. I'm gonna be here a while. Hey, there's Artemis, there's other eclipses, and there's partnerships. No matter what, we'll be out in the community. For those of you who are still on virtually, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
guys.
We'll be tracking down your stories as well.
Not that people